Tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnei te taonga o te Māori. Tēnei taku taonga o ngā tangata whenua he Aborigine. Nō reira, ka ke mai runga tō waka. Māoria mai tō aroha. Mai ihua tekine mai koutou. Tēnei te taonga taku hahi. Nō reira, haere mai e ihua tekine mai. Runga ta matua, ta tama, ta wairua tapu, me ngāna here pono, e te māngai hei tautoko mai, ākene, ai. Tangata whenua.
Budgery, Gamarua. G'day and welcome. My name is Matthew Doyle. I'm a descendant of the Murawari people from the northwest of New South Wales. However, I'm here on Bidjigal land. The Bidjigal are one of the many clans that make up the Eora Nation here in the Sydney Basin. It is customary in our culture that we acknowledge country. We acknowledge our ancestors, our elders past and present. Dajibalang, Onia, Yoli Birong, Gumarago Ngurang, Bidjigolora, Ungungamania, Talinorangun, Banyadiminka, Taukalania. I'd like to welcome you with a song on the Iraki or didgeridoo.
Welcome everyone to the latest Love Audio with Spotify. Over the next hour, we're going to show you the latest in digital audio insights, trends and solutions for advertisers. We've got insightful content coming your way and a bunch of special guests, all selected and designed to inspire you on this journey. I'm your host, Myf Warhurst, and here to help me kickstart the show is the Head of Sales for Spotify Australia and New Zealand, Peter Manton. Welcome, Peter.
Pleasure to be here, Myf. Thank you.
Well, Peter, it sounds like Spotify has had a fantastic year.
It sure has. We had an incredible year of growth and innovation throughout this time, and that trend is just continuing.
Peter, can you tell us what brands and the advertising industry could expect next?
Sure. Well, earlier this year, we made a number of global announcements during our company-wide Stream On event. Many of these announcements were directed to our advertising and brand partners, including the opportunity to reach audiences via podcasts here in Australia. These added another layer to the multitude of ways we can deliver results for the brands, many of which we'll touch on today.
Can you give us a little sneak peek of what's in store for those watching today?
Sure can. Well, we have a fantastic lineup of content designed to ensure our advertising community is ahead of the game and fully informed on what's possible when partnering with Spotify. We'll hear from a number of leading industry voices, including an insightful conversation with Gill McHattie from PepsiCo, and a deep dive on the CPG category with Spotify's Adrian Bingham. And of course, some great music along the way. I'll be back a little later in the session to touch on a couple of exciting recent announcements that our clients can leverage. So do stay tuned.
We sure will. Look forward to it. Thanks, Peter, and we'll see you soon.
Likewise. Thanks, Myf.
Joining me now to explore some of the latest insights and advertising opportunities with Spotify is Adrian Bingham, Spotify's Australian Sales Director. Welcome to the studio, Adrian.
Thanks, Myf. Excited to be here.
Well, Adrian, let's dive in.
Love to.
Now, Peter mentioned earlier the growth of Spotify as an advertising solution for brands. Can you give us a bit of background on this?
Of course. As Peter mentioned, it has been quite a journey. And if you look at Spotify today from an advertiser's perspective, really shows an incredible growth story in a few key areas. Spotify has managed to more than double its new markets around the world, remarkable considering the year that we've all just had. Our on-platform content has had a huge amount of growth, particularly in podcasts, which has grown from 500,000 in 2019 to over 2.2 million today. And then to top it all off, we're now reaching over 11 million Australians. If we take a closer look at the audience, we can see that it's the digital generation that are now streaming, with 56% of the Australian online population, 15 plus, now using Spotify for both music and podcasts. And for brands, that's a really exciting opportunity to tap into.
Oh, absolutely. I've got to say, these days I'm streaming everything digital, from music to movies to podcasts, live sports. I couldn't live without it.
I'm exactly the same. And looking at our core Gen Z and millennials, year on year, we see that Spotify actually still outpaces the growth of other platforms, which many may think would have slowed by now. So for brands across all categories, and we're going to look at CPG and FMCG shortly, we do love a good acronym, it presents a valuable opportunity to access a younger and hard to reach consumers that are engaged and have money to spend.
Okay, Adrian, let's pause on the engagement conversation for a moment, move on to something else. As media is so fragmented now, with every platform and every channel competing for attention, why do you think Spotify is capturing so much of this very connected generation's airtime?
It's a great question, and it's what we call the attention economy. This is where digital audio really shows its strength as a communication medium. For those screenless or listening moments are often so important for brands. We know that our ad-supported audience spends a huge amount of time listening throughout their day. And once again, that is still consistently growing. As digital audio platforms like Spotify continue to invest in new content, like podcasts and audiobooks, it will continue to rise as consumers look to soundtrack their days and turn off from the screen and escape. And for brands to own these moments, connecting with an engaged audience in those different need states to help drive purchase intent or trial.
Okay, so I can imagine that's actually quite important from a retail, QSR or consumer and packaged goods perspective, which I believe you have some examples to share.
I do indeed. So the first example to see this in action is a campaign that we ran last year with Bellavita. Let's take a look.
Mondelez wanted to drive awareness and consideration for Belvita by making the brand synonymous with positive morning rituals. Through our unique streaming intelligence, we know millions of Aussies start their day with Spotify, so it was only natural for Belvita to own those morning moments. So how did we do it? By leveraging our most popular morning playlist, dynamic audio creative to drive personalised messages at scale, and leveraging Australian lifestyle influencers to deliver a memorable, data-driven and highly engaging campaign. And the results? Well, it hit all the right notes, drove 53,000 clicks, nearly 500,000 streams of the branded playlist, amassed 1,700 playlist followers who spent an average 40 minutes per day listening to the Belvita branded profile. Not to mention a 22% increase in ad recall, a 14% increase in brand awareness, and a 5% lift in purchase intent. Belvita, thanks for bringing that good morning energy.
That is very cool, Adrian. It makes sense that brands like Belvita are working with Spotify to own specific moments like that, like mornings. It must be quite a challenge, though, for marketers and brands to ensure that their message is heard in such a busy, noisy world. And as you mentioned earlier, everyone's competing for that airtime, aren't they?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Myf. It's hard for brands to be heard in the right moment and time. And at Spotify, we understand the challenges our brand partners are facing.
Which leads me to my next question. Have you seen any trends or themes in the sort of challenges that advertisers are coming to Spotify and looking to solve?
There are actually 4 common themes we've come across that are changing the approach to brand building today. First, the shelf is continuously changing. Second, that it's no longer sufficient to market to one audience. Your consumers are diverse and they have their own expectations from brands. And then thirdly, in today's ROI-driven landscape, insights are critical, yet often guarded. And last but not least, it's been continually shown that people expect more from brands. But we're obviously not going to solve all of these today. So I thought I'd highlight two really powerful opportunities, which I think will resonate with our brand partners that are intrinsically linked. These are, one, the power of moments or contextual-based marketing, or in our case, listening, and two, the discovery mindset.
Well, let's break that down, starting with moments-based listening. I have to admit I have many of these in my week. For cleaning, I'll put on an 80s pop playlist so I can sing along and not think about what I'm doing because I hate it. But thankfully I live alone so no one has to hear me sing.
That's exactly what we mean, Myf. And if you put that through the lens of a CPG or FMCG brand, it can cover a range of activities throughout the day, such as cooking or cleaning or working out, to name a few. Audio is often a format where you don't need to be looking at a screen to capture the consumer's attention. We also know our listeners are engaged throughout the day across different devices. Their constant connectivity gives us unparalleled understanding of your audience, meaning we can see how that same person streams or understands their listening behaviour across different devices throughout the day.
And each individual would use and listen to Spotify in a different way, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. I've no doubt my Discover Weekly suggestions would be slightly different to yours, Myf, and I'm sure your playlists probably have a few more bangers than mine as well. A good example of our audience understanding, or streaming intelligence as we call it, is in March last year was a 50% increase in searches for housework playlists, which makes total sense given we were locked down at the time. Our homes turned into our new offices, and maybe some of that working from home procrastination was starting to set in. We would expect this trend to bubble back up. Now Sydney is unfortunately in lockdown again as well. Our audience understanding doesn't stop at moments. Spotify can also zero in on what and how our listeners stream. So brands have the opportunity to present in certain moods or mindsets. CPG brands can align with key audiences in their need state. For example, a moods-based playlist like Chill Hits, or a playlist activities like Road Trip, or yoga, or a personalised playlist like Discover Weekly or On Repeat.
Well, speaking of personalised playlists, do you know that I've even found a playlist for my pets to calm them down when I'm not home? It actually really works.
How funny. My playlists are unfortunately dominated by my children. Despite the kids having accounts of their own, I always seem to find Let It Go from Frozen in my Wrapped every year. I kind of wish the Spotify algorithm would let that track go, to be honest. Now, it's all about the link. We know that 75% of our ad-supported audience have better recall when the connection is made. Some findings from IAS earlier this year highlight the same effect. 74% of people can recall when brands align messages in the right context, demonstrating that content was king, but now context is the king. The next example we are about to show is from Steggles, who are not really normally initially associated with the fitness moment or audience, but through some really clever and interesting creative, they hit the mark.
It sounds really interesting. Let's check it out.
Bayarder Poultry wanted to drive awareness for Steggles turkey amongst a fitness enthusiast audience as a superior protein source. Spotify, the go-to playlist destination for workout junkies everywhere, provided the perfect environment for connecting Steggles to a target audience of protein-starved fitness fanatics. So how did we make the brand connection? By leveraging Spotify's streaming intelligence and unique targeting capabilities, Steggles created a bespoke series of workout bangers aligning with specific workout genres. The audio creatives were seamlessly integrated throughout the playlists to provide an uninterrupted listening and workout experience. And boy, were they memorable.
Well, there's a bird, it's not so pretty. Out of 10, it's -50.
Ugly, it's good for you. Steggles turkey is super food.
Bearded bake, best mate to eat. Lean protein, Steggles turkeys taste so sweet. Ugly, it's good for you. Steggles turkey superfood.
So how did it go down? The campaign was highly engaging, with a click-through rate 3 times the Spotify benchmark, and won 3 Spikes Asia awards. Steggles, thanks for showing us ugly can still be good for you.
Well, that's certainly a memorable campaign and an iconic Australian brand too. Now, if we can, Adrian, let's move on to point number 2 that you mentioned a bit earlier, which is the discovery mindset for CPG brands.
Well, having people discover and try new products is an important challenge. The discovery mindset is something Spotify fosters at its very core, as it is our platform that is designed and built specifically for discovery. And brands have the opportunity to leverage this discovery mindset and capture the attention of consumers at the top of the sales funnel. Spotify users are tuned in to product advertising. They're listening for the sound of new products, as seen in some of these compelling insights here. The topic of performance is key with all brand and agency partners, and we are often asked about our video products, particularly for CPG brands, and how they work alongside our audio formats. We find that they are very powerful when paired together and have a media multiplier effect. Combining formats drives significant greater impact when used in unison. And by nailing the audience targeting element, brands can then amplify the results again by leveraging both first and third-party audience segment targeting for their campaigns. Campaigns that include enhanced audience segment targeting drive a 2.7x higher awareness and a 5.3x higher intent than campaigns that include just basic demo targeting, which for CPG brands can drive greater business outcomes. To demonstrate this for you, I have one more campaign example, this time from Carlton United Breweries. Let's check out the video.
Carlton United Breweries wanted to drive awareness and consideration amongst millennials for Mercury Hard Cider and venture into uncharted territory with the dark side of cider. At Spotify, we know our audience is attentive and emotionally engaged, with 70% of listeners saying they remember the ads they see or hear. Spotify provided the perfect platform for millennials to explore the dark side of Mercury cider. So how did we create the brand connection? To reach young Australians over summer, Mercury leveraged Spotify's premium, high-impact video and display formats. And to drive further engagement and purchase intent, Spotify retargeted specific audience segments. So what did the campaign deliver? A whopping 700% increase in ad recall, a 275% increase in unaided awareness, and a 40% increase in consideration. Carlton United Breweries, thanks for showing us the dark side. We're in.
Wow, there's some incredible results there. Hey Adrian, looks like our time together is coming to an end, unfortunately, but are there any last thoughts you wanted to share with our viewers?
Absolutely. If I could leave our audience with 2 key takeaways for the day, it would be this. 1, CPG brands should consider the context of their ads and aim to reach their audience in moments and environments that matter, whether that be cooking, cleaning, chilling, or working. And 2, by tapping into the discovery mindset of Spotify listeners, CPG brands can capture the attention of consumers at the top of the sales funnel and then help influence the desired behaviour they want.
Well, that is fabulous. And thank you for your time, Adrian. It's been a very insightful conversation and I hope our audience have a few key takeaways now too.
Thanks, Myf. It was great to chat.
I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our next guest, Gill McHattie, who's the Digital and E-commerce Manager at PepsiCo. Welcome to the studio, Gill, and thank you very much for my beautiful drink.
Thanks, Myf. I'm excited to be here.
Now, we've just spent a bit of time with Adrian talking through opportunities for FMCG brands from a Spotify perspective. So naturally, it would be great to hear the marketer's perspective as well. We'll start quite broad though. Innovation in the digital media space is constant and the tools available to marketers like yourself, they're evolving at breakneck speed. I don't know how you keep up, but what excites you about digital marketing in its current state and what's inspiring you?
Well, COVID has accelerated the shift to digital overnight, and that's really exciting as there's now a bigger focus and emphasis on what digital channels can deliver for brands. I've noticed audio has been experiencing significant growth for some years. And this is obviously due to innovation and advancements in technology, such as the power of connected devices. That accessibility of audio streaming creates new environments for brands to reach and connect with their audience, and that's really exciting. We also know that audio has the ability to evoke emotion, generate brand love, maintain top-of-mind awareness, which is really important for brands, including ours.
Yeah, it sure is. Now, let's explore ROI, a key driver for marketers when it comes to assessing any channel or platform. Where does digital audio fit into that conversation?
So we all know that reach is an important consideration. However, there are other KPIs that will drive ROI results. Some of these are viewability, brand love, engagement, and favourability. Obviously, different brands will measure different measures of success, but it's important to look beyond the CPM to drive ROI.
Now, Gill, managing digital and e-commerce at a global FMCG brand like PepsiCo, I reckon it'd be both exciting and pretty challenging as a marketer, especially in this current time. And you've worked for a number of other large global brands as well. What insights have you gained from working in the marketing industry?
Well, my role at PepsiCo is to lead our brands into the future by looking at the full potential of digital media, data, and digital creative to bring our brands to the forefront of consumers' minds and build the best digital experiences for our consumers. There's a lot of untapped opportunity for FMCG brands to focus on building out their data strategy, keeping in mind that FMCG brands don't have a wealth of data already available to them. So we need to build the foundations first and then scale it. So my advice would be, if you don't have large volumes of first-party data right now, there are other options. Lean into publishers that can help with addressable data options. And I think you don't have to radically change your strategy overnight. Instead, start testing and learning in the digital space and find out what performs best for your brand and then scale that.
Excellent advice. Now, looking at digital audio specifically, Gill, which you touched on a bit earlier as one of the more exciting and innovative formats at present, where do you see opportunities for marketers and brands in this space?
Well, I think it's really evident that Australians have vastly adopted digital audio platforms like Spotify. You only have to look around the city and every single person has their headphones on or their AirPods in their ears. And because of that popularity and increased popularity in digital audio, marketers, we need to consider how audiences are perceiving their brands through an audio lens. So for us, we use platforms like Spotify to help us tap into really important audiences like Gen Z and millennials across various occasions and times of day. And it's that flexibility to reach people in new environments that's important.
And that's important, right, because it's a saturated media market. Everyone's competing for the ears and the eyes of those generations. Is that right?
Exactly, Myf. The saturation in advertising is a real challenge. And for us, the ability to elevate our voice in market and break through the noise and be heard is invaluable. Digital audio gives us that cut through.
So, Gill, if you had to break down 2 or 3 distinct advantages of digital audio or platforms like Spotify for marketers who are interested, what would they be for you?
Okay, so there's 2 key takeaways for digital audio. My first would be context. There's a wealth of data available which provides sophisticated targeting options for brands. The advantage here is for brands that it drives efficiencies. My second would be an engaged audience. Digital audio offers a one-to-one, intimate environment with the listener. The advantage for your brand is you can capture their attention in a low-clutter environment to stand out.
Gill, you are full of fabulous advice. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Myf. Thanks.
Welcome back. Now, before we wrap up with our final performance today, we've got Peter Manton, Spotify's Head of Sales, who's back with us again. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Myf. Great to be back. Thank you.
Now, Peter, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned a number of recent announcements from Spotify that you wanted to touch on.
Yes, and for those who had the opportunity to watch Spotify's Stream On event earlier this year, you would have seen the launch of the Spotify Audience Network, which is truly a game changer for the podcast advertising industry and is now available to advertisers in Australia for the first time, something I am extremely thrilled about.
Huge news. I actually read the announcement a couple of weeks back in the trade press, and it's just such exciting news for the industry. Can you talk us through, Peter, what this means for the Australian market and what advertisers can expect from the new network?
For sure, would love to. We believe the future of podcast advertising scales with audience-based buying. And that's why we have introduced the Spotify Audience Network. It's an audio-first advertising marketplace which connects advertisers with listeners across a broad range of content, both on and off Spotify. In other words, we're unlocking audience-based buying for marketers like we've never done before. The network consists of creators and publishers on one side and advertisers on the other side, who can now access content from both Spotify originals and exclusives and third-party megaphone publishers. This allows advertisers to target listeners with audience-based targeting, like demographic, geographic, content categories, and even Nielsen audience segments, within a highly engaging podcast environment and at incredible scale too. This is really a significant addition for the market, as to date, most podcast advertising is bought and sold on a title-by-title basis, so limiting the potential reach and targeting precision for advertisers.
My goodness, this is a game changer for the booming podcast ad industry. It will change everything. Peter, I've also heard hot off the press, Spotify have released a new insights report which will be of particular interest for our audience. Can you tell us a bit more?
Literally, yes. We have just launched our latest Culture Next Trends report, which is our annual guide designed to give advertisers an inside look into what inspires and motivates Australian millennials and Gen Z audiences, particularly how they're engaging with and driving culture. This year's edition builds on last year's release, offering additional insights on how the global pandemic and life in lockdown have impacted Gen Zs and millennials around the world. I would encourage any brand looking to connect with millennial and Gen Z audiences to leverage the report. It's really a great resource and read. You can jump onto ads.spotify.com now, download a copy, and explore the microsite, which is fantastic.
Sure is. Peter, got to say, thanks again for joining us. It has been quite the hour of content for our audience and also plenty of exciting opportunities to take away. Thank you.
It's been great to be here. Thanks, Myf.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. We'll see you at the next show.